Hey everyone, how you doing? Hope everyone's good. Hope everyone's doing great. And recently, I took a trip to Los Angeles, more specifically Hollywood. And when I'm in Hollywood, naturally I got to go to this place right here, Amoeba Music in Hollywood. Amoeba Music. And yeah, it's their new store, their new location that I went to. The old store, which was on Sunset Boulevard, that closed last year, and due to COVID, the new store wasn't allowed to reopen. They were supposed to reopen back in the fall, and because of COVID restrictions, could not. They opened on April 1st, and when the day they opened, their new location, which is on Hollywood Boulevard, which is pretty close to Hollywood and Vine, right by the Pantages Theater. When they opened that new location on April 1st, the line to get in the store was freaking crazy. It stretched from Hollywood Boulevard all the way to Sunset Boulevard and wrapped around the Palladium auditorium or theater, whatever it is. And that's a long line. That's a real long line, trust me, folks. And I think people had to wait something like 4 hours to get into the store. Because of COVID restrictions, they could only allow so many people in the store at one time. And it's Amoeba. Naturally, everybody wants to go dig in there and check it out, especially the first day they're opened, and it drew quite the crowd. Now, thank God that's not the day I went there. I went there on the 11th. So by this time, they'd been open 10 days, a week and a half. And I got there on a Sunday, got in line around 4 o'clock, about 4 o'clock, and I had to wait in line for about an hour and 40 minutes. And I thought that was long. Just think if I had to wait 4 hours to get in the damn place, which I would have never did. I mean, waiting an hour and a half to get into a record store, just to get inside it, that was testing my patience a lot, but I was on a trip. It's, a trip in Hollywood. What the hell? Let's do it. So I did wait in the long line and went inside. And one thing I'll say about the new store, it is smaller than the old store. So when you go in there, you're automatically going to notice, like, wow, this store is so much smaller. But the way it's laid out and how they cram as much product into this retail space as possible, on the shelves on the floor, expensive records on the wall, or walls. They really do cram a lot of product in there. And the layout of how the store is and how you find all the various things in there is actually pretty well organized, I thought. Considering they're dealing with a smaller retail space than their old store, how they laid the place out, I actually liked. I did like it. So that was really cool. And there's still a lot of great records in there. Great CDs, movies, posters, books, shirts. It's still the cool store the old one was. It's just a little smaller, but that Amoeba vibe is still there. It's still one of the best places to dig for records or CDs or movies or tape or movies or books or anything like the posters. It's still great for that stuff. So if you're a music lover, you're definitely going to love being in that place. All right, so here, and it's a great store. I went there twice, actually, my trip up there. Then I went there on a Tuesday and only had to wait like 10, 15 minutes to get in the store. So that's the trick, boys and girls. Go in during the week. Don't go there on a weekend. But the line's actually probably not that bad now. They've been open for a while. Anyway, this is what I pulled out of the brand new Amoeba Hollywood store. We're going to start with this one. Toto, 40 Tours Around the Sun. It's a live record. This is from their anniversary. I had the anniversary album, which was called 4 Trips Around the Sun, which was their greatest hits, plus a few new songs. And this is the tour that supported that record. And a really awesome set that this record set is in. It's a 3 LP set on colored vinyl, and they play all their classic songs that you'd want to hear and some of the new songs live, and some really nice looking inner sleeves there. And like I said, it's on colored vinyl and a really nice design. There we go. Really nice design. All the records look like this, and it just an absolutely beautiful looking album. And this is what all the records look like. 3 LPs, this is what they all look like. Great stuff. Toto is such a great live band. I've still never seen them in live in person, but it's great to have these records. They sound so good live. Great jam. There's like a percussion jam at the end of the song Africa, which I really dig. All the new songs sound so good on here. They have a kind of, I don't want to say acoustic set, but side D is them going through some really deep cut songs, but shorter versions of them. You know, just to see if people remember those deep tracks. Really cool. This is just a great album. Rosanna, of course, sounds great on here. So does Georgie Porgy. But the whole album is just absolute fire. It's just great live recording. One of my favorite bands when I was a teenager in the 80s. Oh my God. It brings back a lot of memories, this record. I mean, this band and the songs. And this is a great live album. So glad I picked it up. So Toto. Alright, I'm a big Van Halen fan, so when I find these rare Van Halen albums, they're fun to collect. This is Women and Children First Sessions from Van Halen. What this is an album of all the demos and studio outtakes during the sessions that made the Women and Children First album. That was recorded at Sunset Sound, which is actually not too far from the Amoeba store. Not too far from the old one either, on Sunset Boulevard. When I used to stay down there, well, I used to go to the old store. I used to walk right past the Sunset Sound recording studio. And really cool. Anyway, here's what it's on red vinyl. And I like that label, really cool. And it basically you're getting like the studio outtakes and demos and instrumental versions of the songs that were on the album. They throw in some extra tracks on here as well. It is so cool to hear this stuff. The sound quality is not bad. It's basically demo recording quality. Maybe you gotta turn the volume up a little bit, but it sounds cool. It sounds cool. It's just great to hear like the instrumental tracks of these classic songs like Romeo Delight, Everybody Wants Some. It's, oh man, it's just, Loss of Control is really cool. I never liked that song Loss of Control, I gotta admit, but hearing the studio outtake of it made me like that song. That's like, it's actually a damn cool song. For some reason I always skip past it. In a simple rhyme. It's a great version of that on this album. More instrumental, I believe, yeah. Really cool stuff, really cool stuff. I forget what the extra tracks are, but my old ass eyes, I need the glasses. Genie, which is a David Bowie cover from Pasadena in 1976, is on here. And Voodoo Queen and Bullet Head. The Bullet Head actually ended up on Another Kind of Truth, the last Van Halen studio album, and Roth came back to it. Very cool stuff. I wish the band itself would release these things officially, so I don't have to buy the bootlegs of it. It'd be great if whoever's in charge of the master tapes, I think it's Eddie Van Halen's wife, I forgot her name, not Valerie Bertinelli, but he remarried. I think she's in charge of the estate, and so far there are no plans to release anything. I mean, at least remaster the Sammy Hagar era albums and put them out on vinyl and digital download and CD. It'd be great to hear those albums remastered. At least do that. Maybe some rare live recordings, something from the vaults, anything. Van Halen fans are starving for just something, and you know, as always, from the official band, nothing comes out, so we're forced to buy bootlegs like these. But they are great to collect, and they sound great. I just wish you'd get official release from the actual band. But oh well, let's move on. That's just my 2 cents about that. This one's from the Motels. This is a very interesting album. It's called Apocalypso. The Lost album from the Motels. Now, back in, I think it was 81 or so, or 80, the Motels recorded this album called Apocalypso and turned it into the record company, which I believe was Capitol. And Capitol Records didn't like the album that they recorded. They thought it was too dark. It didn't have a commercial mainstream sound to it, so therefore they thought there were no hits on it and felt there was no way they could sell the album. So they passed on the album and got him in the studio again and had him remake the album, which became their hit album, All for One, which included Only the Lonely, Take the L. So what this is what they originally intended to make in the early 80s, before the album All for One. So so this is what their original vision for that album would have been. And we got older, more, not acoustic, but darker versions of Only the Lonely, So LA, Mission of Mercy, the song Apocalypso, Art Fails, all songs that were on the very popular All for One album. And so you get to hear what they originally wanted to do as far as a band of songwriters. That makes this a really interesting LP. And now that I've had time to digest this, I think I prefer this more than All for One. Because they sound more like what I like to call organic rock, just down to roots rock and roll. They sound heavier, ballsier, and you could tell they're having fun with it. And then you listen to All for One after listening to this. And, All for One just sounds polished and mainstream, made for FM radio, which is not wrong, because that's how records were selling back in those days. Anyway, it's on colored vinyl. It's on orange vinyl. And beautiful looking album. The other side has the track listing. Really cool album. And yeah, I'm already, probably because it's new to my ears. Here's the inside sleeve lyrics on the back. Probably because it's new to my ears, new to me, but it's a much ballsier album, and I have more fun with this one than I do All for One. Even the song, which was a big hit single, Only the Lonely, even that one sounds a lot, I wouldn't say a lot different, but different. The version that we've all heard on the radio is driven by, a keyboard or electric piano sound, more or less a keyboard. On this version, it's piano, and it sounds so good. Her voice, it almost sounds like she's singing in a smoky nightclub. It has that kind of sound to her voice. The way the mics are set up, it makes her voice sound that way. Of course, on the radio version, the LP version later down the road, it's more slicked and polished to sound great on FM radio. But on here, they sound like a club band, and and all the songs kind of take on that personality. Even all the other ones like So LA and Mission of Mercy and Art Bells. This is a really good album, really good. I'm glad I bought this. I had to pay a little extra for this one because supposedly, as we can see, it's signed by Martha Davis, and supposedly that's her signature, or so the store says. So I paid a few extra bucks for this one just because it had her signature on it. Hopefully you saw it on there. But a real good album, and it's interesting to compare this album to what actually was released back in, I think, '82 it was. The album that contained all the hits. It's interesting to hear the band's original vision of those songs. And I think I prefer the original vision because it's, like I said, it sounds darker, more ballsy. Okay, let's move on. From the Goo Goo Dolls, Gutter Flower, on vinyl for the first time. This album came out originally in 2002. And had some really good pop songs on it. Big Machine, Here Is Gone, Sympathy. Some really good songs from the Goo. I'm surprised how many Goo Goo Doll albums I have on vinyl. I think this is my 5th one. And they're all real good. And I've always liked this band. I wish I collected them more back in the day. Because I always loved their songs on the radio. And it's just a liner sheet that came inside with the record. There's the lyrics. And this is also on colored vinyl. I don't know what is it with me and colored vinyl on this trip to Amoeba, but oh well. There we go. It's on this kind of rust-colored vinyl. Really nice looking record, and it sounds great. All the hit songs that are on here sound fantastic. A great mix on here. It sounds so good on my stereo system as it comes off the turntable. Oh, it sounds great. It's a well mixed album. Sounds fantastic. You've seen the colored vinyl. Looks fantastic. A real good package. I'm real happy to have this in my collection. I've spun this quite a few times already. I'm so happy with it. I just dig this album. That's all I can really say about it. It's a well-made album of pop songs, and they have a great sound. And one of these days, I'm going to see this band live as well, because I never realized how big of a Goo Goo Dolls fan I was until I started collecting their vinyl and realized I liked so many of their songs. It just sort of snuck up on me, I guess. But really good album. So glad I got it in my collection. Real good stuff. All right, the next two albums are older records that have now been remastered because they're celebrating 40th anniversary. I don't know if they're celebrating it this year. I might have gotten it too late, but that's what's advertised. And we'll start with the first one from the Jacksons. Jacksons Live. This is the 40th anniversary remaster, and it's a 2 LP set, and a pretty cool looking gatefold. Pretty cool looking gatefold there of the guys. I had this originally on a used LP, but it was a single record. It wasn't a 2 LP set. And I have to admit, this remastered version sounds so much better. They did a good job remastering this one. I wouldn't say it sounds tons better, but it does sound better. It does sound better. Not a lot better, but better. Still a great live recording. It has the original Epic Records label. There we go. But a good remastering. The band sounds great. The mix is really good. Bass is nice and punchy, but you can hear the highs of the instruments, the vocals. It all sounds really good, and some great live versions. Oh man, the Jacksons sounded so fun and energetic on here, and we get a few songs from Michael's Off the Wall album performed live on this set. Really good stuff. I dig this a lot. Still, my favorite song on here is Shake Your Body Down to the Ground. I always thought that was a badass song, and it sounds really good live because they jam it out pretty long. And the songs from Off the Wall are really good on here too. Like the title track, Off the Wall, Rock With You, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Working Day and Night. Those sound really good on here. It's a great live album. Really good live album. I wish it would get hyped up more than it does, but great stuff. So very happy to put that in my collection. Another R&B record that's celebrating, I believe it says 40th anniversary, right? Yeah, 40th anniversary pressing from Earthwood Fire, the album I Am. This will make my third copy of this freaking album on vinyl. Obviously a record I didn't need. I got a regular US stereo pressing, and I have an audiophile pressing that's done like in half-speed mastering, which sounds really good. This is a remaster, and it has this nice glossy cover, because this was always one of my favorite album covers. I love the colors on this and the design, the artwork on it, and it's done in this real glossy finish. It looks absolutely beautiful. I even like the inner sleeve on it. Just a nice selection of colors on it. Really good. And this is also another record that's on colored vinyl. The only one that wasn't on colored vinyl was the Jacksons. Everything's been colored vinyl. And here we are on this kind of, well, they call it a fiery colored vinyl. But, yeah, it looks orange. But I see what they mean. Anyway, the remastering on this album is very good. This sounds very, very good. It could probably rival my half-speed mastering copy of it. It sounds fantastic. This is when the band was really, really just putting out amazing music. A good era of the band here. They were really strong on this album, and Oh, they're one of my favorite bands from my childhood. As I said, I wasn't a big music fan as a kid, but Earthwood Fire definitely hooked me. I swear to God, when I listened to their song All in All, that was like the first album I listened to in its entirety when I was just a little boy of 7 years old. And I think this came out when I was 9 years old, because my brothers are big Earthwood and Fire fans, and they bought all their 8-tracks and cassettes. So I would just listen to their tapes and just would sit there like in amazement of how great it sounded. And this record sounded great back in the day, and it sounds great today. So it's nice to have this special anniversary pressing of the album, because they're one of my all-time favorite bands, and I have seen them live, and back in the day too. Well, back in the day being 1988. But they still had a lot of the original members. Maurice White was still singing with the band, performing with the band. Such an awesome concert. Great memories of that show. All right, we're going to move on. Back to another rock album from the Police, Synchronicity. This is, again, my third copy on vinyl of this record. I have, a used American copy. I have the Japanese pressing with the Obi. So why would I get this? Well, it's an audiophile pressing, and what's advertised, it's on purple translucent vinyl. Until you take it out of the thing, it looks like just a black vinyl record, right? But when you hold this up to the light bulb, you'll see that it's actually a purple record, and it is somewhat translucent. It's like, okay, so I got to hold this thing up to the light to even see it. I can't really show you, but take my word for it. When you hold this thing up to the light, then you see, it is a purple record. They might as well just said it was a black vinyl record. But yeah, you can see that it's purple. But it's an audiophile pressing, and it sounds fantastic. It sounds really good. On my stereo, it just booms, especially when I put the headphones on. Even better. I mean, this is a well-mixed record. So I decided to take a chance on it, because like I said, I'm a big fan of Synchronicity. And yeah, it was worth the gamble. It sounds, man, the mix is fantastic. Came with the original insert. So there we are. One of my favorite albums of all time is this record. The band just sounds awesome on this entire album, and I've been a fan of this album since I think it was 12 or 13 years old when it first came out. My sister had this album, and she played it a lot, and I got to hear her copy, and she got it on vinyl too back in the day, and oh my God, record got a lot of play. This record got a lot of play back in the day, and now that I'm buying my third copy of it. So if you do see this in the store and it's advertised audiophile pressing purple, and if you're a huge fan of this album, I would recommend you get it, because you will hear the difference in the pressing. It's a really well mixed album. Really dig that one. Here comes another remaster of an old classic record from Modern English, After the Snow. This is another remaster, repressing, also on colored vinyl. And like the Earthwood Fire record, this has a real glossy finish to its cover, so it looks absolutely great. They did a great job just reproducing the artwork on the cover here. It really looks good. Really looks good. And the remaster, like Earthwood Fire, like the Police, sounds really, really top-notch. And it's on white vinyl, like I said. There it is with the label. And there's the other side that shows a track listing. Hopefully I'm not doing that upside down. So it's a good looking record, and it sounds really, really good. Great remaster, I should say. Great remaster. And here's the inner sleeve. Never was anything extravagant to look at. But I'm really digging the remaster on this album. The audio is so good on this. The mix is so good. And this one's limited to 500 copies. And I got number 399. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, I got lucky on this one. I had an old pressing of it, used American pressing. This sounds way, way better. I mean, way better. It's no contest. The mix is great on this. The overall mix, just fantastic. The low end sounds real strong, but you know, to hear those layers of guitars and vocals coming in crystal clear, my God, this is such a good mix. They do such a, when it's done right, it sounds fantastic. This is, the remaster on this is done very right, so really dig this album. It's a good, besides it sounding good, it is a very entertaining record. I mean, yeah, it has the one song, I'll Melt With You, which is very popular. My cover band actually plays that song, and always get a good response on the dance floor when we play it. But besides that song, the rest of the album is very good. This is a very good record, one of my favorite from this era. So, very nice, very nice. All right, this record right here I'm about to show you, I debated getting because I don't really need another copy of this, but it's Genesis. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. I always say lays down. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. This is a Japanese pressing. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the obi strip on it, but it is a Japanese pressing, which came out, which was reissued in 1988. Originally, the album was written in 1974, or written and recorded, and released in 1974. There's the gatefold. I didn't, you know, I have American and a UK pressing of the album. And it's nice to get Japanese pressings of Genesis records. That's my thing. I got most of Genesis albums on a Japanese pressing, besides this one, and self-titled Genesis, which has the song Mama and Home by the Sea. Still looking for this Genesis self-titled. I wish this had an obi strip. That would look so cool, but it is a Japanese pressing. And it does sound very good. And here's the very long lyric sheet. But what's cool with this copy is it came with like a Genesis family tree. So it gives a whole breakdown of, you know, before Genesis, the members had their own bands. One was called the Anon, one was the Garden Wall, one was Flaming Youth. When those bands disbanded, the first lineup of Genesis happened, and the solo projects outside of Genesis happened once the band got popular. So it's really cool to see this kind of family tree of Genesis here. That was a cool insert. I like that. Good touch, good touch. And of course here is the labels for it. Nice looking label there. Look at that, that's nice. And it's on the Charisma label, as these old Genesis records are. Really great to see that. You know, it sounds great on my stereo. When I put this album on headphones and listen to on headphones, then it loses a little of that punchy mix that this album normally has. But still a great listen. It's still a classic album. The other records, labels on the other record looks exactly like the first one, so I'll just show you just that one. Still a great album. It's still one of my favorite Genesis albums. But then again, I have a lot of favorite Genesis albums. It's hard to pick one over everybody else. But absolutely love this album. Some people say it's Genesis' best record. I don't think so. I think maybe it's going to be Selling England by the Pound or Trick of the Tail are my two top ones. But this is not very far behind. I mean, it's a sensational album. And it's nice to finally have a Japanese pressing of it, even though it doesn't have the obi. That would have been a nice touch. It's good to at least have a Japanese pressing of this album, because it is one of my favorites from the band. So, really good to bring that home. Another progressive rock band is Camel. I bought this album, Mirage, only because I've never seen it with this cover before. I've always seen the one that looks like an advertisement for cigarettes, that cover. I've never seen Mirage with this album cover. I mean, I don't know how common it is or how rare it is. I've never seen it before. I always thought there was only one album cover to this, but apparently there's two. And this is a fantastic. I don't have all of Camel's albums, but what I do have, I think I have like 3 or 4 of them. This is my favorite out of the ones I have. I absolutely love this album. This is a great album. Not a bad song on it. It's just killer. All killer music. And here's the record label. Old school label there. I wish this band was more popular than they were. I don't know what it was that kept them from being a huge band. Probably because they didn't make hits. They made these progressive rock epics. But they were such a good band. I don't even think they were that... I don't know how popular they were in the prog rock world, because I was just a kid back then. I didn't grow up listening to Camel. I discovered them much later in my life. But, oh, what a great band. What a great album. Really dig this one. So glad I have it in my collection. Again, I don't know how rare this cover is, but it was the first time I saw it, and I was kind of shocked by that. And naturally, I wanted to get it just for that reason. All right. Here's another record that I had before, but this copy is so much more interesting. It's from Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, or OMD as everybody knows them as. It's their album Organization. This is a UK pressing. What's great about this is it comes with the 45 of the 78 tapes. So it comes with the artifact, as it says. And here's that artifact right here. 45 of almost instrumental music. I think they were live recordings, actually. And they sound pretty cool. They're interesting to listen to. OMD had that kind of new wave industrial sound that I found interesting. People might think it's weird. I found it interesting. And this album is really good, too. The big song on here that was real famous for him was Enola Gay. That's a great song, and but I do love this album. It's a great listen. I did have this before, but it didn't have the 45 with it. So that's what made buying this copy pretty interesting for me. And it also has this. It's a advertisement to join the OMD fan club and order some of their merchandise. So here's the order form that you would send out. And there's what you can order from down here. I always like when these older records come with these sort of things. They, you know, the fan club order form, the merchandise order form. Really cool to see old stuff like that. Old school. That's I don't even think modern bands these days even have fan clubs. I think everybody just follows them on social media, and that's considered the fan club. Did that go out of style? You know, artists or bands of these days having fan clubs? Because it was very common back in the day, and I can't recall if that's even still done anymore. I guess not. I'm assuming not, because social media just killed everything that was cool about music. And probably killed fan clubs too, but I'm sure there's still some fan clubs to some people, to some bands out there. All right, a couple of them that weren't done here. From the band Icehouse, Measure for Measure. I got this for a couple bucks. I bought one Icehouse album in my last video, which was Man of Color, or Colors, and thought that was a good album, so I thought I'd go for this one on Chrysalis with the label. And this is actually, I only heard this once, but I really enjoyed this album. I thought it was really good. I figured if I didn't like it, big deal, I only paid $2 for it. But I ended up liking the record. Probably not as much as the last album I got from them, but still an enjoyable listen. And I'm glad to have this, so I'll keep it. I won't get rid of it. Real enjoyable album. So I think this came out in 1986. So pretty cool. And the last of the 12-inch vinyl comes from The Art of Noise, Into Battle with the Art of Noise. Has the song Beatbox on it and Moments in Love. Those are my two favorite tracks on this record. I mean, I had those songs on other Art of Noise, like compilation records. But no, I never had this album on it. Never had this album from the Art of Noise. I thought it'd be cool to bring it home. Again, this was only a couple of dollars on the Island label. And I always found that band, Art of Noise, interesting. So, and this record is really interesting. I can't say I'm down with all the songs on here, but Beatbox and Moments of Love sound really great on this. So, probably not an album I'll listen to many times, but still fun to have this one. Alright, we're going to end with a 45. So special they had to put in its own little baggie from Amoeba Music. This is a Japanese pressing of a 45 record from Prince, and it is Sign of the Times. Japanese pressing of Sign of the Times from Prince. One of my favorite songs from Prince. Absolutely badass song. I remember the first time I heard this song on the radio, R&B radio station we have here back in the day, and they played it, and I was just like, whoa! Like, that is freaking cool. I mean, there wasn't much to it, just a guitar and a drum machine beat, but and a little bit of layers of keyboard. There's the label, Paisley Park label, very nice. Yeah, and I remember I was just blown away the first time I heard this song on the radio, when it premiered on the radio. I still remember that day. I thought, this is the coolest song ever. I mean, I've always been a fan of his stuff, but that song really won me over fast. Pretty much immediately won me over. So, became an instant fan of the song. And, oh man, what a great song. So it's really cool to have this Japanese pressing of this 45. Definitely one of my favorite songs from Prince. Alright, that's going to do it. That's my finds from Amoeba Hollywood. Like I said, great store. It is smaller than the old store, but still a great place to dig for vinyl. I had a blast there. Like I said, I went there 2 times in the same week I was down there, and this is what I pulled out of 2 days of digging in Amoeba. Such a great store. I can't wait to go there again, probably in some months down the road, but definitely going to do. It's great to have Amoeba back. It's great to have Amoeba music back in Hollywood. Even though I don't live in LA, and I do live in California, but Northern California, which is kind of a long road trip from from one end of the state to the other. But it's worth it because I have fun in LA, and Amoeba Music is one of my stops. So that's going to do it. Please leave me some comments. Let me know what you think about these albums. Or if you've ever been to Amoeba Music, tell me about your experience there. Let's share some conversation, shall we? All right, that's going to do it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later days.